Good tires? Who needs them? Better tech in your Prius? You probably need that. And we're going to find out what's going on with the upgrades for a Suzuki Kizashi, because so many of you drive one of those. It's Roadside Assistance. Welcome, everybody. Brian Cooley with Wayne Cunningham, Antoine Goodwin, and we've got Stephen Beecham at the controls today, filling in for Mitchell. Here's what we've got in your emails this week, and don't forget to get in the show. It's easy. Just send us a question, a comment, or just a vile screed about what we do here at cartech@cnet.com. Ruben Sandwich, it's his real name, writes in and says, I'm in the market for tires for my Kia, it turns out. It came with super cheap tires. They always do. Nexen is the brand. Never heard of those. So he says, my Kia is strong and fun, but brakes, tires, and engine are the most important parts of a car. So for Kia to cheap out on the tires is like driving on butter. I used to work at a bicycle importer years ago. We used to get these really inexpensive tires and tubes from what was then very exotic from China. And the name was Die Young. D-A-E-Y-U-N-G, but still Die Young. It's just very prophetic. Anyway, his question is, what kind of tires should he get for his Kia? That's like wide open. He also says, P.S., my Mazda, which I guess he had before this, was hooker red. Then he found out it was volcanic red and says the salesman pulled one on me. You were disappointed by that, weren't you? You thought you had a car that was hooker red. You told all your friends. They thought you were cool for a minute.
I'm kind of wondering what he's doing with his Kia that he needs new tires every year.
He doesn't tell us what kind of Kia he's driving.
And there aren't that many fast ones.
Right. It's like, okay, maybe you're out there shredding your, turbo, what's the Kia that matches the Sonata? Kia.
Oh, the Optima?
Optima. Turbo Optima's vaguely sporty.
What about the Ford Coupe?
Oh, yeah. Could be a little Ford Coupe.
High-performance version of that one.
Yep.
Sort of, yeah, okay.
High-ish performance.
And driving, if he says it's got crappy tires, I bet it's a Soul. Because those seem to come with little skinny tires when I see them, unless they have a little wheel package on them. But let's just shop by vehicle. Let's guess.
Nexen, I never heard of that.
Nexen, no, never. It's like Nixon.
I've heard of them.
Really?
I've seen them in I used to see ads when I used to read a lot of import, like tuner car magazines.
Is it a cheap tire?
I don't know. I've
never bought them.
I never bought them. I just recognize the brand name.
Let's assume he's got a 2010 Forte Coupe. Sound reasonable?
Yep.
Sure. SX is the high trim? Yes. We're going to go through the tire rack here because they are to tires what Crutchfield is to CarTech.
Yeah, TireRack.com is definitely the place you want to start looking because they got a configurator. You can choose your car. It'll tell you what the wheels are and at least the original wheels.
Yeah, their data guide, their data is the best, and they also let you try different wheels on a car, which is cool to see how they're going to look. So let's just rank them here by cheap and just find you a cheap tire that we think is good. You don't want super cheap. You want something better than that, but we don't want you to go spend $230 a corner like these. You're not going to put Potenza RE70s on a...
Why not?
That makes no sense.
Makes perfect sense.
It'll be $1,000 a tire change.
It'll be the best upgrade you make to any car.
Yeah, of course it will. Oh, and they're Z-rated, so you might get 8,000 miles out of them. That's always fun.
Yeah, well, the reason the manufacturers, the way they pick their tires is, of course, there's cost.
Yep.
But then they also have to, they buy them for wear life, for fuel efficiency. They pick them sometimes. A lot of times they make deals with certain tire companies to supply tires for all of their vehicles.
Yeah.
In certain cases, like with the Toyota Prius, they actually work with the manufacturer of the tire to design a tire for that vehicle. But in most cases, it's kind of an off-the-shelf sometimes it's a rebranding of a tire that's already, maybe it's already a Bridgestone something or other. But they just kind of rebrand it for that particular manufacturer.
Kind of like some of the TVs you see at Best Buy. It's an existing model, remodel numbered for Best Buy only.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which makes it hard for you to cross-shop them.
Yeah, makes it very tricky. So here's an example of some tires that are in the low $100 range. This, to me, makes sense for most Kias. Again, not knowing what model you've got, not spending more than the car engineers spent on the suspension, hint, hint. Hankook and Kumho, and you're going to get a lot of these brands that are not traditional tire brands that we know. There's also some Continentals in here. General still makes tires. That's good to know. I'm not sure who and realize something that's very key about this. There's like 7 or 8 tires here under $120. It's key to know one thing. The brand on the tire is usually nonsense now. Most of the major tire companies long went out of business and sold their brand to another company that's using their brand. It's like a Magnavox TV. There is no Magnavox company anymore, but they sell Magnavox and Zenith televisions because some company bought the brand. So don't get too caught up in getting Goodyears because a lot of Goodyears aren't made by Goodyear. A lot of Goodrich aren't made by Goodrich. So this is one of the great BS businesses in the world is tires. They will tell you, oh, you want a Goodyear, that's a great tire. You want a Michelin. Well, who makes it? If it says Michelin, it says made in China. It's probably subcontracted. Just a hunch.
Just to who?
And it could be a great tire, but you're not buying some legendary heritage Michelin tire that is made at some, handcrafted in some factory in France. It's not. It doesn't work that way.
Right.
So don't get BS'd by tires. That happens all too often.
Also, a lot of it really depends on, as far as like picking a tire, what you're going for. What's the weather like around your place?
Yeah.
If you live in a place that's pretty dry most of the year, maybe you want to look at some summer tires for if you're looking for performance or something. But if you live in a place where the weather's pretty erratic and unpredictable, then maybe you want a nice all-season tire, or never underestimate a good snow tire in a place that gets a lot of snow and slippery conditions. Additionally, you want to look at things like wear life. If you're going through a set of tires every year, you probably want to look at the way you're driving, but B, you want to make sure that you're buying tires that have the wear life that you're looking for. And you can oftentimes find, even within the same brand of tire, the same sub-brand of tire, different wear lives. Basically what happens is the stickiness of the tire, that sort of grip rating, and the wear life of the tire are often inversely proportional. So you can find a nice balance of grip, ride quality, and wear life. There's a lot of different things you want to look at. And you, Brian, actually, didn't you do a video about the
how to read the sidewall?
How to read the sidewall.
There's about 12 points of data on the sidewall of a tire. Most folks don't know what most of them mean. They know about tread wear, temperature, and there's one other. Tread wear. There's the three letters, AAB, it'll say. Temp, tread wear, and I'm forgetting what the third one is. Anyway, everyone knows about that because it says right on there what it is.
Traction.
Yeah. But there's a bunch of other specs on there that are really cryptic, and you also want to know what the yellow and the red dots mean. I won't even tell you. So go over to CNET TV and just search tires. I can't imagine we have more than one video on tires, and if we do, tell me what it is, and I'll put a link to the video in the show notes, and we'll take you through decoding your sidewalls. Let's see. Better Prius Tech. Dave in Delaware. He's got an 07 Prius. He he has a good mount for his iPhone 4. He's got that, or he's going to get a mount for his iPhone 4, make that a nice little sort of mini pocket head unit in his car. Great. He uses Motion X for nav. Motion X?
Yep.
Popular?
It's a good navigation system for the iPhone, yeah.
Okay.
You have to pay for it monthly.
So he's using that for his nav.
Yeah.
Doesn't have nav in the dash on an 07. 98% of the time, though, he says, I don't need nav. Most of us don't. We know where we're going. So what should he run in the foreground when he's not using nav? It's kind of like a wide open question. What should I do when I drive? Not like what music app or what traffic app.
According to Ray Hood, he should stare at the road.
Yeah,
Keep his hands on the wheel.
Right.
The simple answer is you should be driving.
You should just be driving your car. If you don't need to look at somewhere else, don't look somewhere else. Although he may want a music app.
YouTube.
Facebook. No.
Great. Okay. Right. NakedChicks.com. These are all great when you're driving. Seriously. All right.
If I were doing it, I would probably put up some sort of performance meter. It's a Prius. It's a little silly, but
it's a little.
I would use it for the opposite reason.
Let's see how low my G-forces are.
Yeah, to measure how smoothly I'm driving.
Yeah.
Trying to keep the G-forces within a certain amount. Of course, the Prius already has like fuel economy meters and stuff built into that, but if it's just you just want something moving around on the dashboard,
he doesn't.
That doesn't hurt.
You don't need that. Wayne, you wanted to go traffic.
Yeah, I would definitely go traffic, because even though he says he doesn't use his nav 98% of the time, and that's true. Most of us know where we're going.
Yeah.
But if you're driving in any urban area, there's likely to be traffic, and you want to know about that before you hit it. The problem, of course, with most nav apps is that it'll tell you about the traffic that you're in.
Right. Good. Thank you.
Which is actually a good reason to have a nav system that has traffic with it. And even if you're going on a normal route you always drive, plug in that destination anyway. You're not going to care about the turn by turn, but you're going to care about it if it says, oh, there's a 10-mile backup up ahead.
Or at the very least, just run the map. If you have a live map, like I'll do this on the Android phone and just look at the traffic, just do the traffic overlay and just see where traffic is. And I can look at my route really quick and see if there's a red line where there normally isn't. I'll do that sometimes.
Yeah, there's a good traffic app, INRIX Traffic.
Yeah, they're a big traffic provider.
The INRIX app is really good and has really good up-to-date information.
Huh.
Not all of this stuff is, you might get into something that hasn't been reported yet, which always sucks.
Yeah.
And, there's also, you can leave Waze open just so that you can be snacking goodies while you drive around and getting those
Right.
points.
That's
if
right,
you're
the
really into that,
points.
sometimes I just run Waze just for the points.
What was the the augmented reality app that we talked about months
Ion
ago?
Road.
Ion Road.
I don't remember if there's. I think there's an iPhone version of that, but that's like a collision detection app. It's
That's right.
watching the road ahead of you to make sure you don't run into something. I don't know if the iOS version of Lingo does this, but the Android version has this thing called Safe Reader that'll read your text messages aloud to you. So if you
Well, that's
might want
actually
that.
useful.
And there's also an in-car interface that basically lets you just talk to it. So you can say like, "Hey, Vlingo," and it'll go, "What up, dog?" And then you can go send a text message to Brian saying, "I'm going to be late," and it'll do that. And
Nice.
you won't have to touch the
Nice.
device. On iOS, of course, I think Siri would do this. But
Yeah,
you'd have to
Siri
reach up-
should do similar things.
Yeah. So basically, it's a matter of what do you do in the car. We can't, tell you what you should do in the car because that's the first question before you decide what should I be running on the phone to help me do that. And if you don't do anything that needs an app, then don't run an app. There's no reason to be distracted. This is becoming a big deal. See CarTech Live from this same day.
If you can find an app, I should probably look this up. But if you can find one of those drive recorder apps that maybe uses the front face, the back camera to do some sort of recording in case you get in an accident, it'd be nice.
Oh,
to
for the
have
really
that.
paranoid, yeah.
Yeah, just an
Or-
app like that. I think an app exists that does that.
Or face that backwards and do your own version of that cab game show.
The cash cab where you just ask
cash
yourself
cab.
questions.
Pick up hitchhikers.
Try to pick up hitchhikers, pull over and say, "Hey, you want to ride somewhere?" And everybody's like, "No, I'll wait for a real cab."
Or better yet, they aren't even looking for a ride. They're just walking down the sidewalk and you're pulling over. Hey, do you want a ride? No.
The app is Drive Mate Rec. And it basically uses the camera
Seriously?
on your iPhone.
Drive mate wreck?
WRC, like for record.
Oh,
Okay, I thought it was
WRC.
like, because you're
Just,
going to wreck your car.
REC for record.
All
And
right.
basically it records video while you're driving. And if you get in a fender bender, you just tap a button. It'll like grab that 30
Kind of
second.
cool.
And yeah, I saw a
Yeah.
video this morning where on the internet where some guy backed into another guy in traffic and then got out and tried to say, you ran into me. And the guy's like, no, I got a camera on my dashboard.
Look, my car
right
was
there
still.
recording. And I wasn't moving. And it could save you a couple of $100 if something happens.
That's kind of cool, actually. If there's anything that you could run that you would want to just have running all the time, because that's the thing, you have to use something like that religiously because you don't know when you're going to have needed it. So if there's something you just want to get in the habit of running all the time, seems a little odd, but if you want, that's cool. Hey, maybe you're odd. That's all right. We're good with
You're
odd.
right.
Dave, we're good with odd. It's okay. Let's see. Rodney's got a Kazashi. Our condolences. No, kidding. 2010 Kazashi. Well, yeah, 2010. Our condolences. Rockford Fosgate system. I want to replace it with a JVC 50 HDT, which is a surround head unit. Would it be worth the upgrade? Only thing I see is the nav, where I can place a Garmin on the windshield for that because my car has Bluetooth streaming. Is my smartphone. Thanks, and guys, enjoy the show. We're going to send you a family-sized box of punctuation. Then we're going to answer your question. What would you do with Rodney here?
The 50 HDT, what is the KWNT 50 HDT is the unit he's asking about. It's a pretty good stereo. It's got HD radio. It's got navigation into it. It is a good replacement if you don't have the. Well, I guess the Kasashi, you can't even get nav on that. He does mention that, yeah, you pretty much are stuck with that. Well, if you want nav, we'll stick a Garmin on your dashboard and wire it into the system. So yeah, I would say it's worth upgrading. The only thing that I would look at is you have the Rockford Fosgate system, so there's an amp somewhere that you're going to have to tap into. So
it's a robust system.
Yeah, but I mean the thing is that it's just an amp. It's not like anything that's really tricky. But you want to look at the detailed instructions on how to plug into that
And get an interface kit that will let him.
Yeah, go somewhere and have it installed, which he may actually be doing. He didn't state whether he was going to do it or not himself, but if you go somewhere and have it installed, they'll be able to figure that out for you. But yeah, that Garmin system is good, but it's not really well integrated. And I mean, the JVC system that he's talking about, it's got a big 6.1 inch screen, big-ish.
I think we're looking at it here. Is this it?
Yep, that's
Okay.
the one.
Here's one on eBay for $760. It's not cheap.
No, I mean, as far as
one of-
nav head units go, $760 is kind of cheap.
Yeah, for
They
that.
usually float around $1,200.
Yeah, but that class of product he's looking at is, that's a full bore head unit.
Right, and JVC units, as far as pricing goes, they're a bit on the low end of the price anyway.
Okay.
For a 6.1 inch Pioneer that does the same thing as this, you're looking at about $1,000. maybe a little less,
Street,
With
yeah, but
6.1
still.
screen.
Now, one thing I'm thinking he'd lose here is on the Rockford Fosgate head unit, it has those special DSPs, settings for different sound fields, they call them.
Yeah, right.
Where you can make it sound like a concert hall, put a bunch of echo on it and all that kind of stuff.
Because
And
that's what you want. To ride around in a cathedral.
and then there's the super bass setting too, where you can just like have the subwoofer like bang out everything.
Yeah, he'll have no way to invoke those profiles, even if they're built into the amp and still exist. What control would invoke them?
Well, I think that sort of thing happens in the receiver anyway, that DSP sort of
Yeah.
stuff. So I think it just, all of that sort of signal processing and adding echo and volumization.
So it's all going
happens.
away
I think all
anyway.
that happens in the receiver, and then it just sends
Sends it to
whatever
the amp.
signal it's going to send to the amp to be amplified. I'm pretty sure that's how that works.
Well, whatever it is, he's gonna have some sacrifice on that, and trying to save that amp might be a challenge.
Which may not be much of a sacrifice, actually.
Well, I mean, when you install this JVC system, it's going to have its own EQ anyway. So
Yeah.
if you want to pump the bass up, you'll still be able to do that. You just won't be using a stupid loudness algorithm that makes your music sound worse anyway.
But if you love the sound of that Rockford Fosgate, whether it's rational or not, some folks like a certain kind of really inaccurate audio because it's just the sound they like. In fact, most of us have some kind of a bias towards some really inaccurate kind of sound. It's just the way it is. You may not get that same particular sound back. But
I don't think there'd be a way to reproduce it.
With enough
It would
EQ.
just take time.
Yeah, with enough fiddling. All right, so that's what you can do with that. And yes, it's a nice upgrade. It's a big upgrade. That's like night and day from a text ribbon readout to a full LCD nav, live traffic as well. Everything is in there. So 05 Subi Legacy GT, hung in Virginia, talks about this one. Let's see, he's got an in-dash CD. That's about it. Then he went and got an aftermarket Parrot i9200, which is a hands-free Bluetooth system, has a cool little dashboard you kind of Velcro onto your dash, a little knob and a couple of buttons and all this. And so he's got all this going on. He's got, he even gave away his Garmin nav because his Google Android phone has, he says, better maps, better traffic, et cetera, et cetera. His question after all this odyssey is, do we even need factory car tech anymore? You were talking about this last week.
Right. This question came up last week, and I kind of babbled on for about 45 minutes about it.
And what did you babble to the conclusion of?
Well, I came to the conclusion that different strokes for different folks.
Yeah.
So it's, there are people who just want to buy a car. Like they go to the BMW dealership. They just want to buy a BMW that does all this awesome stuff.
Yeah.
And that's just the kind of person they are. They don't want to fiddle around with adding things onto it. They don't want to fiddle around. I mean, these are the same people.
That's most people.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, the kind of people who are just like, I can't run this game. I'm gonna buy a new computer instead of like upgrading my video card.
Right.
I mean, we all know that person.
And they are most people.
Yeah.
Yeah, in all those cases. The 20% will upgrade their gear. The 80% will just go buy something new.
Right.
For reasons of both maybe lack of technical prowess and lack of time. So if we're talking about the average person here who just wants an everyday car that has everything running, you get it and it's going, then yeah, you're going to pay. You'll pay for the convenience. The factory's going to nick you thousands to have all that stuff done versus you using your phone, which brings a lot of it for free.
Yeah, of course, with the phone, you have to have a mounting spot, and this is where we're talking about hooking this stuff up. I mean, if you just want to keep your phone in your pocket,
And wear the earbuds.
get in the car and start driving, you don't want your nav on your phone because you don't want to pull it out of your pocket. You want to have it, like, visible on the dash. Mm-hmm. And, of course, when you get into things like one thing I was looking at recently was a head-up unit in a car, which is very convenient. Project your turn-by-turn on the screen.
Yeah.
You're not going to get that with the phone.
Right. And as you're talking, I'm thinking, why not?
You could do that. You could
why
fake
can't
it.
they do a wireless iPod out? And that would spawn an industry of little tiny dashtop projectors that I bet might sell like hotcakes, especially if the DOT starts to scare people.
Or they might outlaw that, too.
Then there's that.
Isn't there like a film that you can like stick to your windshield and then sit your phone underneath it upside
Right.
down?
Yeah, exactly.
And it'll look like a head-up
Some
display. I
clone-
seem to recall seeing
It'll
something
be backwards.
Like that. It wouldn't work in the daytime, but at night
It'd be
you'd
backwards.
probably be able to see it.
And it'd be small. It wouldn't be magnified at all. So it'd still be the same real one-to-one. But
Yeah,
you
but
could do it.
head-up displays are small anyway.
What happens when you take a hard left, though, and your phone slides across the dash?
Right across the
Well,
dash.
the head-up
yeah.
display goes with it. You just minority report it back in front of you.
It's like that Audi we saw at CES. Just do this and move the screen back to the driver.
Have to take another hard turn to get the phone back in place.
I don't want to be following that car. I mean, come on, you're taking it. You're preaching to the choir here. I drive an 88 Ford. There's no tech. My phone gets clipped on the dashboard, and I got everything done. I think it works great. I could upgrade my head unit. I could put a modern stereo in that single-din unit, but I don't care to.
Well, the
It's all
automakers
on the phone.
are going to, and I've seen this a bit, is they're getting better and developing these interfaces from the phone to the car. I've seen this with equipment makers. I saw this at CES actually. They had a good iPhone interface where most of the stuff was powered on the iPhone but showed up on a screen in the car. Same thing with Android. They can do that too. So they're working at this. The problem is right now the protocols aren't really set in stone yet. There's a lot of development going on in that space. So
and what's the Android thing? It's Connected Car Consortium.
Car connectivity, MirrorLink.
MirrorLink.
Yeah.
So those are the two things. Yeah, iPod Out and MirrorLink are the two major platform ways to export the video on your screen, more or less to an external display, typically in a car. Mm-hmm. But the issue here is, and if you missed CarTech Live this week, most of you subscribe to both, so I encourage you to go check the show, or if you don't, subscribe to CarTech Live as well over at cartech.cnet.com. We had our lead story this week about how the feds are starting to rattle the cages of car makers pretty seriously about what they let you do in cars in terms of factory tech. I can imagine the first thing that the factories cut is stuff like support for iPod Out or the Android connectivity, because that makes them part and parcel of a wild west of in-car distraction. They're saying, we're just going to enable you to do whatever you want. Factory sponsored, because we're going to let you bring your display in, but then we're just going to say, oh, be safe, and we're not going to regulate it much.
Well,
that sounds like a red light district.
It's not really a Wild West, though. I mean, there's a certification process for getting your app approved for both of these things.
Yeah.
For iPod Out and not for iPod Out, but definitely for the MirrorLink Car Connectivity Consortium thing. Mm-hmm. They have a process where you have to submit your app for approval to use the protocol, just so that you don't end up with, first-person shooter on your dashboard.
Is that one of the filters, or are they filtering it for technical quality?
They're filtering it to make sure that you conform to the technical aspect, but then also there is a sort of a, well, this isn't really an appropriate for car sort of thing.
So they're envisioning MirrorLink as strictly a car thing.
Yeah, it's definitely it's sponsored by the Car Connectivity Consortium, so it's definitely all car.
Okay, it's all car. All right, but so then they are having some say over
it's similar
appropriateness.
to how would Ford with Sync AppLink.
Yeah,
Ford AppLink. Is it Sync AppLink?
What are they called?
I think it's Sync AppLink.
I think call it Ford.
AppLink is underneath
their naming convention is horrible. But the same thing there, where they only have like 4 or 5 apps, but that's just because it's not open. You have to come to them and say like, "Hey, we'd like to use to develop a heart rate monitor for the car," and then they have to go like, "Well, how can we do it safely?"
Right. By gosh. Okay, so that's some takes on how to use your phone. It's yes, your question is almost leading. The phone does it all and more for way less money and is far more malleable and updatable than any car will ever be. It's almost like there's no reason not to, except people love the very large display. They like the built-in nature. Nothing's falling and sliding and hanging off the glass. Let's face it, when you clip a phone anywhere, it looks nasty. It's some nasty $29 suction cup. No one makes a good car mount for a smartphone. They make all junky ones.
It depends.
Where's the Apple quality windshield mount?
They only apply for Apple products. That's the thing. There are a lot of good iPhone windshield mounts that are sturdy.
Really, it's really nice ones,
and they don't do. And I think last week, didn't we talk about like the TomTom car mount? No, that was last week. You guys weren't here, but like the TomTom car kit is rock solid, and it has a GPS receiver in it, and it has a speaker in it.
Yeah,
so
it's nice.
It's a good receiver, and there are other ones that The thing about the iPhone is it's shaped like an iPhone. Once you start, getting into like Android tablets, Android phones, everything's a different size, so you end up with these universal things that have the clamps, and then they're on the end of like a 6-inch neck that jiggles around. I've got one now that I use for my Thunderbolt, and the funny thing is when I hit a bump, it jiggles about half an inch in every direction. So if you're trying to hit a button, it's like, whoa, there we go.
Yeah, I got this piece of crap right here. This is the one it's just your standard sort of articulated suction cup. It's just nasty. The ring behind the phone that you use to tighten it in position is so cheaply made, it always snaps. I refuse to buy another mount because you can't buy parts for it, so I've got it all fixed up with electrical tape. It's just a mess. It's so ghetto.
Wait. That's the OEM Droid one, right?
Yeah.
That's a good mount.
No, not mine.
I think the thing is you keep taking it out of cars and probably putting it in other cars.
Yeah.
Is that a thing?
It's in and out all the time.
I think most people would snap that on the dashboard and just leave it there.
But that I would never leave in my car. Look at that hideous thing. I mean, first of all, where are the nice sort of top of dash mounts? That's what I want. They're kind of like a molded sort of an OEM style little hump that is, each one molded for the major styles of phones, maybe with an interchangeable set of trays.
The thing is, those they either have to use adhesive of some sort,
Yeah.
or they're just going to slide over the dashboard.
Visualize a car maker saying we're going to do a universal metal plate underneath the dash, under the upholstery. You can't see it, but there's a zone there. And we're going to sell a line, or at least license manufacturers to make a line of these sort of lumps that will be the same upholstery color, magnetically clamp on there, the magnets in the car mount, the plates just inside the dash. That's a great standard that should be out there. And give me something that looks kind of like the design of the car, not this nasty plastic thing. If I go buy a $50,000 BMW, and that's a cheap one, and I decide to get iDrive, I want to use my Droid, I'm not going to stick this thing in there. It's horrible looking.
What's happening is, though, you're saying that I want something that's universal on both ends, and that just...
It's doable.
It just gets even clunkier as far as, like,
They used to do this. They used to do this with cell phones years ago. They had these. A lot of the car makers either sponsored or they sold these into dealerships where it was upholstered in automaker materials. They would tell them here's where we source our material, and the aftermarket company would go buy a bunch of it and they would make their products out of it, and it would clip on the side of your console. It'd be stitched the same way, and it would have a place for your phone to go.
It was like, what? How much?
There was a time. About $120. This was years ago.
Yeah,
so it'd be a pricey piece.
A suction cup mount's $10.
Yeah, but if you buy a nice car, you don't want that. I drive a non-nice car. I don't want this damn thing sitting there all the time. It's like, gah. Plus, it's got that. Well, I guess they both would. It says I have something valuable in the car, so they both have that problem.
Well, if it's a phone, odds are
it's probably with you. Right. But for some reason, people keep breaking into cars when they see the suction kiss on the windshield, right?
The CNET Veo was broken into for the TomTom, a GPS mount for a TomTom.
It was just the mount sitting there?
Just the mount, but it had it was one of the ones where the power cable connects to the mount.
Yeah.
And then you just snap the TomTom into it. And I got out of the car and left it suction cup to the dashboard, plugged into the cigarette lighter. And I come back and the window's smashed. The cradle is gone. Stereo's still in the dashboard, mind you, and it's just barely in there because I don't do full installation. I just shove it in there and drive around.
They could have just pulled it out, right?
They literally could have just pulled the stereo, but they saw the car kit, and it was more of an opportunity. It's like, oh, I can smash and grab that, and they got away with what's probably $25.
So they got a car kit for a TomTom, but not the TomTom.
Not the TomTom.
Just stole the mount.
TomTom was in my backpack
and the 12-volt plug.
Yep,
that's it.
Yep.
Unbelievable.
Window had to pay, we had to pay to get the window repaired for a $25.
I guess they thought you left the TomTom under the seat or in the glove box. They probably rifled for it, but
Nope.
Everything was cool.
The glove box was closed. Nothing was rifled through.
Somebody wanted them out right now.
They was like, I lost my TomTom mount. I really
Amazon delivery would have taken a day or two. Wait, there's one, and it cost nothing. Oh, God. All right, folks. That is Roadside Assistance for this week. Wow. Send us your questions. Email cartech@cnet.com. Voicemail 866-401-CNET 866-401-2638. Any old way you want to do it. And by the way, we have this as the sort of unsung hero of Twitter accounts. You can follow us at CNET CarTech. I often forget to mention that in both of our shows. Or you can follow us individually. I'm Brian Cooley, like it sounds. Wayne is the unpronounceable Wayforney. That's another way we could say it. Wayforney.
Wayforn.
Wayforn. That sounds dirty. And
the E silent too.
And you're right. Each time we say it, a different letter is silent. Next week, the W will be silent. And Antoine is Anku, ANTGOO. We're all on Twitter. We have to be. They'd fire us if we weren't. And thanks. We'll see you next week. Bye.